Alright, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 118 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, man. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is my new guitar, named Red. I'll get him in tune. But today's the 10th of May, 2025. This episode 118 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is titled, If You Build It, They Will Come. Now, I kind of took this title, sort of, but I'll give credit, from the movie Field of Dreams. Okay, there's a movie. You like that I'm tuning red while I'm just talking? Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening, so. Hold on to your cats. And your bats. The ones for baseball, too. Shout out to Flying Foxes. So, yes, there's this video. This is actually a full movie. And it's titled Field of Dreams. And there's this phrase in there. And the guy says, if you build it, he will come. So I changed a little bit, right? And if you build it, they will come is actually episode 118 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast's title. Okay, this one here. Now, my name's Evan Strong, as I said, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. There's 4 sides to us, and I'll talk about each of the 4 sides. Holy cow. And we'll get into the discussion, but first, if we can get Red in tune. That's where we're gonna leave him. Okay, I'll play something on it because I do that. I play something, a little intro. Unorthodox and untraditional. What's up, y'all? So, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And I get blunt and bold and raw and real. I'm going to keep Red in my lap because I love this. So, here we are, okay? Holy cow. I'm gonna play a little bit more guitar though, because sometimes I do, man. Trying to think of a song I can play. You know, because the song This Road that I've played a little bit on In the Image Clothing Company podcast is actually an intro to it. And it goes... It goes, dreaming of mansions in the sky, falling from heights I cannot dive. Then it gets into the song. There's actually an intro to it, and now you know what the intro is. Man, talk about it, dude. All right, we'll get into it. I'm already here, episode 118, In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We're about 5 minutes in, and we haven't really got to the podcast necessarily. But, yeah, okay. The gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. We're all human beings placed onto the same earth. We just talk about it as it is, okay? Now, another fourth of us is In the Image Clothing Company, the main side. Where it all started, keyword allowing the human body to work is what we do. We come at it through clothing, the only thing placed onto us, and there's a center line to the human being. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw, which naturally stabilizes our entire body. These things have to stay in the center on an earth with gravity, pulling us straight down, and feet arches opposing the center on either side, gripping inward that keep us vertical, okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. I say we're just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, because that's the case, all right? But yes, eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, hydration, doing these things naturally, we talk about it, and the human being physically as a mechanical, operable thing that we've been given to move across the earth within as our vessel. There's a neutral in every joint. Like the wrist, it's an easy one to show in visual, okay? In the Image Clothing Company podcast is available in visual plus audio, and then just audio only. But our body needs to reside in its neutral positions, okay? Clothing for everybody. And this will be the intent behind the designs of In the Image Clothing Company clothing, always. But ideally, it stays centered and fits correct, and I'll discuss how it's supposed to fit for everybody. And then made out of 100% natural materials, because that's how we allow the body to work, all right? The body's natural. So, pants need to be entirely above the hips. If you're a man or a woman, tall or short, skinny or fat, any age, any part of the earth, or from any time period to ever be, you're a human being. And with our pants above our hips, they need to be slightly higher in the front than they are in the rear, because our core muscles then can stay activated. That's the only reason they're there. The body has to work as a whole. Anywhere any of it goes, all of it comes, okay? The tops that we wear have seams that are on top of our shoulders. They need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. Our shoulders can only ever actually work behind our head, just mechanically. That's just how it is. And for so many people, and myself in the past, that's just not how it tends to be. Because of clothing. No joke. No opinion. No dispute. We talk about things so thoroughly that it's just what it is, okay? And I'm sinful by nature, and sometimes I mess up. But, yeah. So the seam is behind the peak of the shoulders, and then the edge seam's just right at the very edges, because that's where the functionality of the ball and socket joint of the shoulder is, okay? Two things we have under In the Image Clothing Company as prerequisites. Conditional, okay? There's not always ropes that we place on top of our feet. We call those shoelaces. And there's only one way to weave those and allow the feet to just continue to be feet, the only way they could ever work. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is what we call that. Found wherever you find us, a 5-word name as a whole, okay? In the Image Clothing Company. Yes, InTheImageClothingCompany.com, you can go too, okay? Today, man, as of today's date, the website's not up and running yet, but we own it. We've owned it since 2024, okay? Now, tying our shoes evenly on both feet over toward the center line of the human being is a must, okay? 2 sides to the body. Removing all tags is our second prerequisite, because anywhere they are placed, they're just causing a physical gap, changing the body's only workings, and or just not allowing musculature to activate, okay? And the body's always just what it is, so there's no way it can compensate without just problems arising. So, yes, okay? One other fourth of us is In the Image Clothing Company music. And I play music, dude, as you heard a little bit there with the guitar. I feel music, I make it. I show how to size guitars and set them up correct so that we don't alter our hands. Because as I said, right, the hands are essentially the shoulders. The feet are essentially the hips. So, there you go. Okay, 3/4 size, cute little guitars, what I'm playing here. Because then I'm not reaching off into such a far distance. And normally I'll keep it with 3/4 size as well when I can, because then it's even more ideal size. I like half-sized guitars a lot, but I do love little red here. So, yeah, In the Image Clothing Company Poodles is another fourth of us, and we have our purebred, proper American Kennel Club registered standard poodle puppy program where we breed poodles, okay, to come as of today's date, but that's what we do. But also just letting dogs stay natural is the whole slogan for that fourth of the company. Flooring that's flat and slippery, okay? Kibble that's dehydrated, water's been extracted from it. A lot of toys and accessories for dogs that has had unnatural materials be what it has been made out of, okay? We talk about these things, and we will have dog products available under In The Image Clothing Company with the same intent as human being clothing, okay? Natural, minimal, staying centered, right? Light. I love dogs. I love standard poodles so much, okay? My heart is in it, dude. I made a video actually today for the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, and I was like, talking about, well, what I titled it was In The Image Clothing Company is here to stay, because it is, right? It's a lifelong thing for me, Evan Strong. So, yeah, dude. But, you know, I was talking about how I was watching this TV show last night, and I've seen a lot of TV shows like this throughout my life where people will have their first encounter with a certain animal, right? And then it's like something that stems their whole lifelong thing of dedicating their time and efforts to a conservation type of thing, right? For a specific animal, or just, you know, spending so much of their life just dedicated to an animal in a way that they never could have first expected. And actually, I documented under In The Image Clothing Company podcast, and these episodes are numbered, and so it'll be there for literally ever, okay? Unless it gets deleted by somebody or something happens. I'm not in charge, but, right? How I went over to the shelter in the town where I live at this time and spent some time with the dogs and just took them outside and walked them around and hung out with them. And there was a standard poodle named Snoopy. He was all matted up. And, you know, he was a stray that got brought in. And that's that experience for me, you know, these first encounters these people have with something they never expected that then becomes the rest of their life. Yeah, so now we have a whole fourth of In The Image Clothing Company, which is titled In The Image Clothing Company Poodles. And a lot of what we do is advocate for good dog ownership, proper breeding, registering dogs, purebred dogs, taking accountability as the owner, right? A lot of things like this is actually what In The Image Clothing Company Poodles is. We really do so much here, man. I love it. And that's really what this title is about, of episode 118 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. If you build it, they will come. Right? Like the movie Field of Dreams, he says, if you build it, he will come. A little different though, because I'm not expecting just one man to show up. But the whole thing is, where this title is coming from is what I mean, and what this whole podcast is going to be about. This episode here, episode 118 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, right? You know, we've got 118 episodes of the podcast, and in one location where it's placed, there's some views, you know, and in another location that is placed, there's also some views, right? But I think a lot of people expect when they start something for it to just either take off right at the start or they're not going to do it, right? But what I'm building here is eternal, and what I'm building here is something that's my whole life. It's not like, you know, I'm in my 20s because I'm 25 years old, right? And some people, well, I guess, you know, I'll work on a company for a few years and see what happens. And I'm not trying to be judgmental, but the whole thing is this is my lifelong thing, you know, and I think that's the point of it, is there is no time limit on anything. But I've been thinking about credibility, you know, and I've been thinking about being a reputable breeder. And I've been thinking about the things we talk about under, you know, the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. And I say the phrase, clothing is the only fix to human beings' physical pain and patterning. And it is. That's the truth. It's the only thing physically placed on us. And we just don't think about it because just about everybody wears clothing just about every day, doing just about everything they ever do. But I've been thinking about where does the credibility come then? How are people actually going to know if what we're talking about is real? Well, it is because it's a lifelong thing, and you can only keep up the act for so long if you're trying to just make something that it isn't, which is a phrase I use so much. We're not trying to make anything that it isn't here under In the Image Clothing Company. We're raw, real, authentic, bold, blunt, right? Offensive. Ooh, gosh, truly. Because we're who we are, and we're just talking about things as they are. And so the whole thing about correlating that, as far as credibility, right, with the title is, if I build this, people will come. If I just sit here and I work on a company for about a week and a half and expect, advertisement to just draw people into just about nothing, it might not really work so well. But if I just keep doing this and keep on keeping on and just keep going, and if I just keep building, then they will come. Because now, if you have a question on what we are as In the Image Clothing Company, it's not like we just claim to be something and we made like 4 videos. I'm not trying to compare to anybody else and what you're doing, but speaking out of experience and, preaching what I have practiced, as I say, on the back end, right? There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Preaching What You Practice. The paradox, right? On the back end, doing it first, right? Also, there's one titled Do More, Say Less. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. That's its title. And, I don't want to be tooting my own horn, but I can if I've already done it, not out of pride, but out of using myself as the example, really, right? Now if people have a question on what In the Image Clothing Company is, it's like, well, yeah, just 1/4 of our company alone, we have 118 podcast episodes. There's some context on what we are. I've built it, so come check it out. You see what I mean? If you build it, then the people can come. And so I'm not expecting any amount of people to even know what we are by any certain time. But the more time that goes by, and the more that I put into this, the more that I build this, the more people will have to come to, right? Now there's stuff here for people to come to, because I've built something. And so I think the beautiful thing about it, dude, is I don't have some expectation, and it's not something that's just only a specific thing that could only be done in a certain time period. We talk about things that are eternal, truly, undisputed, lasting forever, right? Not every single word that comes out of my mouth, and not every single thing that comes out of my mouth is correct, even when I'm talking about things that last forever. You know what I mean? If you don't, that's why I just said it, to give some context. But that's the whole thing, is a lot of times why companies don't last, even if they do get off the ground. And then a lot of times companies just don't even get off the ground before people stop working on them, is because they're expecting people to come before they've built something. Right? Episode 100 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is titled Laying a Foundation. And I don't want to be like prideful with that, but that's what I mean. I'm just saying it as it is. That's what I've done, right? I'm building it so there's something for everybody to just come check out. It's here, regardless of what I want to hype or push. It's already here. I've built it, right? But it's not like there's any kind of done or end point. That's the thing, that's the focus, I think. For me, that's what I want to focus on, It's not like you can build something to the degree that you think it should be good enough to be, bringing people in by that point. It's like, no, I'm going to just keep building this for the rest of my life. And so, that's what it's about. And I've heard people say that, it's not about content, it's about documentation. And that's episode 114 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where, I made it clear, kind of to myself, really, because I was a little bit unaware at first of what this really was for me. But its title, episode 114 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, is In the Image Clothing Company and Evan Strong are one. So the point is, however long Evan Strong's on this earth, In the Image Clothing Company will be continually being built. All right. So that's the whole thing, right? Is regardless, I mean, I'll just keep building it. I'll keep adding a brick here and there, right? Every episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is like putting a brick on a wall, and we're just building this thing. You catch that terminology, the wording? It's a building. I love words, man. I'm a lyricist. I really am. But yeah, I mean, right? When you talk about building something, well, what you have built is a building, right? I mean, that's how we word it in English. So what I'm saying is, for the rest of my life, I'll be building this. It's not like I'm just trying to, like, have people be so interested in something that's not even there yet. But, I mean, it's just, you have to build it first before people can come. Because that's the thing, as much as I wanted to try to sell clothing, right? Because we will have clothing. I know that we're 8 months into In the Image Clothing Company. You haven't had a single clothing sale? Okay. Whoever you are in this hypothetical, right? Take a step back and see what we really do here, because there's 4 sides to us. And each of the 4 sides is their own thing. And within each of the 4 sides, there's many little things that could be their own whole company in themselves. That's just how it is. Okay, that's what this is. It's packed full of a lot of things that apply to every human across the earth forever. And that's why it's cool. That's why it's here, right? That's why it matters. And that's how I can just continue to build it forever. But if I were to just try to sell clothing right at the beginning, and there was nothing to give us credibility, there was nothing for people to really know about what this company is or why you'd buy our clothing over somebody else's. And, I mean, in building this, that's where the foundation lies, right? I mean, that's really what we are. Because somebody buys some clothing from us, and great, you paid us some money, good. And then I go spend the money that somebody purchased a shirt with, and now I don't have the money anymore, right? I spent it on something. But if I make an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, it's forever. It's an advertisement. Oh, it's a lot of things that I could get into, but as far as building a company, right? If we're saying that, each little brick that I lay, and they're kind of big bricks, really. I mean, seriously. Each episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, for example, is an advertisement for what In the Image Clothing Company is, and they're numbered and here to stay forever. Each video on the main site of In the Image Clothing Company that I make is a brick in the building of In the Image Clothing Company and its whole entirety of what it is. And it's an advertisement. It's information. It points people to why we would ever have clothing to sell in the first place. It shows that me, as the founder of the company designing the clothing, I know the human body's anatomy and how to allow it to work. Right? I've built all this back end, and again, there's no ending to the building of this. It's my whole life. But that's why this is what it is, and it's not just like a rack with some clothing hung on hangers and a price tag above them and a cash register and asking for money. This is a lifelong thing, man. And anything I ever do for In the Image Clothing Company is documenting. I'm not making content that's conditional. I'm just making time capsules, essentially, right? I mean, I'm just showing things as they are and building credibility, and I'm just building it so people can just come. I talk about it as a community. We call it a company because, yeah, we have sales, right? I mean, we're going to sell clothing. We're going to sell dog products. We're going to sell standard poodle puppies. But at the same time, I mean, it's just a familial place, right? It's like a family. That's what I've been saying since the founding. Back in September 2024, dude. The 23rd of that month. In the launch video, I said that. It's a familial place, a community. Come hang out. Meetups, and, right? Poodle parades under In The Image Clothing Company poodles, right? And all the meetups for the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. However that's going to look. As of right now, I don't have those all laid out as much as I have poodle parades laid out and how they're going to be. But, just teaching people about their bodies and clothing modifications and things. But again, I have all this context here where you're just listening to one of our podcasts. You're like, oh gosh, what the... He's saying he's going to have events where we can bring our standard poodles of any size and our poodle mixes of any size, and no other dog breeds allowed, by the way. But we can come and get together and hang out and learn more about dogs. And he's an advocate for, good things when it comes to being a dog owner and keeping dogs healthy. Oh, okay. I learned this from a podcast that was titled A Clothing Company. What in the world, right? Because I built it, so now people have the opportunity to know about it, and then they can come. This is what I'm talking about, right? If you build it, then they'll come. You can't be expecting people to just come to something that's not even quite anything yet. You got to put in the work on the back end, and work looks how work looks for you and your specific thing you're doing. I've just been praying through it, and a lot of people in my personal life and family, they know I haven't had a job for a few years, and I know I haven't had a job for a few years, and people who know In The Image Clothing Company have the potential to know that I haven't had a job for a few years as of today's date. But I've been working, man. I don't need some kind of, I don't know. I don't need you to care, I guess. But the whole point is I've been working. I've been building something so that there's something for people to come to, right? I've been basically like building a home. No joke. A place for me to dwell for the rest of my life. Rather than jumping from job to job, I've built a lifelong company, dude. Yeah. And so now people can come to it. And good people, too, right? People that want their bodies to work well because it's the only thing they've been given in this life by God. Everything else just will leave at some point, and maybe it's not until death, but then it will, right? Your body doesn't. We get resurrected, and our bodies get restored to their proper and perfect frame, right? Corruption gets restored to corruption, and incorruption gets restored to incorruption, right? The evil gets restored to evil, and the good gets restored to good, okay? And so that's the thing, right? Is I've built this, so now people can come. I think that's like the basis of this, and well, I just like it, right? Because but people think you're crazy, man. Let me say it like this as well. People think I'm crazy right now, and they have throughout this whole past 8 months of me starting something, and it doesn't really even look like a clothing company, dude. What are you doing? I thought you were building a clothing company. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, but it's not for the sake of clothing. It's for the sake of the human body, and also music and guitars and poodles, standard size, specifically. I also have a podcast where I discuss the truth of all things, and I help people know where they belong and where they are going and where they came from. But yeah, I mean, you can think I'm not really doing much, it's like I'm just over here with my bricks. It's another brick in the wall. Shout out to Pink Floyd, right? I'm just building something, dude. I'm tinkering with some Tinker toys or Lincoln logs, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just out here just stacking some things up, dude, and I'm not intending to build a stairway to heaven, but I'll build a nice shelter for us to hang out in, right? Sheltered under the wings of faith, because I don't even know what I'm doing, dude, but it's working. I don't appreciate the judgment, but if you don't get it, I get it. And isn't that weird to say? So that's where I'm at, I mean, I'm just building this. You're going to be the ones coming later with your shin splints and shoulder impingement, right? Sciatica pain and arthritis, your lockjaw. All you people are going to be coming to In The Image Clothing Company. But I'm just over here building it, so just hold on, leave me alone, and try to be understanding at least, I mean, But I gotta build it for you to be able to come, This applies to you too, every human on the earth, forever, right? So sometimes you just gotta put your head down and work, dude. And when I've been at jobs, that's how it was, I put my head down and work, man. And I work harder than most people around me, man. And well, because, I'd say this, and I will, but then I'll expound on it, I could say, like, I do the work of 2 or 3 employees, and, well, who's to say? But at multiple jobs that I've had, I've literally done the work of 2 or 3 employees because they didn't even schedule somebody for another position, so I did the one that I was doing and the other one, right? Like, I worked at a little cafe one time for about a year and a half, and there was 2 positions right here, right? I mean, there's like a line, people come down to get their food, and at the end there was a position called Expo, and then a position called Cash. The Expo position was the person who got all the food together, the person ordered and packaged it up, and then it would normally move to the person who was running the cash register. And so each of those people, right, that's an individual position. And most of the entire time, most of the time that I worked at this cafe, I did both of those positions. I double, double the positions rather than just doing a single position. So I literally was doing the work of 2 people. I mean, for months and months. And I worked at a grocery store one time for a couple of years, and they called it a front-end supervisor. And well, we had a little U.S. post office in there, and I ran that because there wasn't somebody scheduled for that. And then I counted 13 tills each night. And then I supervised the cashiers and baggers. And I ran the service desk. And then the majority of the time that I was there, I worked nights anyway. And during the day, there was about 6 department heads, right? Like a meat manager, dairy, grocery, the store director, which is kind of like a general manager for a grocery store, right? Then the front end manager, right? There was all these people, bakery, deli, each of them had their department head. And then in the evening at 6 o'clock, they would all leave, and I'd be the only one over all those departments. And, some of them would kind of be shut down in a sense, but, I mean, it's still a grocery store, right? I mean, there's still things to purchase in each of those departments, and still stuff that has to be done throughout the whole store. And then I was the one doing everything every night for months, many months. Okay. So this is what I mean. I don't, because sometimes I sound so prideful, and sometimes I just am prideful. There's that accountability we talk about. Right. I get it. Yeah, sometimes I'm just straight up prideful. Definitely. But sometimes I'm saying things and I don't mean to be prideful, and there's not even pride in it. But, I've done a lot of work at places of employment, right, for other human beings, companies, where I've done the work of 2 or 3 plus. I mean, seriously, we can get up to a lot of other people as far as the amount of positions that I covered personally in my shift, right? Yeah, so because I can say things as they are without being prideful, right? When I say, like, I'm pretty wise, dude, because I've got a lot of life experience, and I know what I'm talking about because the things that I talk about work, right? I mean, you can say stuff like that without being prideful, Yeah, and that's not a bad thing to do. And I think that's something we need to get over as human beings is we've got to be okay with saying what we're good at. Because you need people to be good at something, dude. I mean, someone's bleeding out on the ground and you need somebody who can just boldly say, I am a good, what do they call those things? EMT, emergency medical technician, right? It's not prideful. You're good at it and we need you. This person might die otherwise, Under In the Image Clothing Company, it's like, when I say stuff that I know so well, it's because people's bodies are in pain, and I know the actual reason. Anyone else could know the actual reason, but I'm just one of them who does, and I have a whole company here that we share the truth, okay? So the point is, man, I'm just building something here that's cool, and I love it, man. In the Image Clothing Company, all 4 sides, right? And I'm just putting bricks down and building this beautiful building for us to all just kind of come and congregate inside, okay? Come to church, y'all. I love Marvel's Iron Man. I think Disney owns Marvel nowadays, but whatever, however it works, right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay? Iron Man, though, I don't even remember which movie it was in, but one of the movies, I think it might have been Iron Man 2 or 3. Um, I don't know. Tony Stark, I just love. I love his personality. I relate to him a lot. He's a pretty prideful man. I'm just aware, dude. Sometimes I'm very prideful. I get it, but there was one scene where he's just like, take him to church, and he like, I don't know, he just did something, and it was like he kind of just like wiped out all the enemies or something, right? And it was just like, I just think stuff like that's so cool. Just giving this idea of what it really means to come to church. Come as you are, because there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled "Too Righteous for Church," and I was like talking about people who don't go to church because they don't think they need it. It's like, yeah, y'all too righteous for church. I go because I know I'm not righteous, because I'm the prideful one. You see what I'm saying? Like, but the point is, with talking about what church is, it's like, that's kind of, in a sense, what we are under In the Image Clothing Company is a congregation, right? You're standing up there at the pulpit, looking out over what we call the congregation. People who have congregated together, right? Because the church was built, so people came. You see what I mean? If you build it, they will come. But if you don't have something built, there's nothing for somebody to come to. And I talked about, you can have church anywhere, on the beach or in someone's backyard or a living room in a house or, anywhere. But, having a beautiful building built, then people can come and congregate together. Having In the Image Clothing Company just built as a thing that people can then know of and come to, then they can come to it, right? We can congregate. We can all get together, man. Let's get together, yeah, yeah, yeah. It reminds me of The Parent Trap, the movie. Lindsay Lohan, dude. There was one with her, and then they did another one before that one as well. I think that was like the original one, the one that was before Lindsay Lohan's rendition, if you will. But no, I love that, man. I mean, just come on, come one, come all, right? Black, white, bond and free, male and female, the people with the Conjure Malaysia Patella, and the people with the good work and ankle position. You know what I mean? Those who know how to tie their shoes and those who don't, come to something we've built so that we know where we're going. Right? I mean, that's what I'm saying about everything that we do here is an advertisement for what we are. Every single video is like putting up a flyer somewhere. Because we're in the modern day where currently we have the internet. And this podcast episode, just this one by itself alone, right? Out of the other 117, this one, episode 118 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled, If You Build It, They Will Come. Every human being on the face of the earth, dude, who had access to the internet could listen and watch, or just listen, right? Because there's two forms of viewing or listening to In the Image Clothing Company podcast, right? Nobody is excluded to this information if they have access to the internet, all right? And it's because I built it. Now anyone has the ability to come. I mean, God, well, because when I talked about building, laying a foundation, golly, episode 100, right, of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, that was its title. I talked about how God, he laid a foundation, right? He humbled himself as a man, came to the earth, went in our place as a human being, as our perfect example, died in our place, suffered for our sins and afflictions and pains and heartaches and troubles and everything, right? And then died for us so that we could be redeemed and resurrected through his power, Jesus Christ himself, right? God himself in the flesh. And really what he built was an understanding. He built a congregation, he built a community. We talk about being members of the body of Christ. When we take the sacrament, right, or it's often called like communion, right? You take a little piece of bread and eat it in remembrance of the body of Jesus Christ, and then you drink a little bit of water or juice, wine, whatever it is, wherever you are, okay, in remembrance of the blood of Jesus Christ that was shed for us. Anyway. Yeah, God, he built something. He built kind of like a rules and regulations for life by us being able to just look at his life, and emulate it to the best of our sinful ways, right? To like the fourth rung of the ladder to heaven until we, slip and fall again, and then, right? You know what I mean? Like, but the whole point is it got built, right? I mean, something has to be built for people to come. We talk about that's where I was. I got so humbled by what I was saying, bro. But we talk about it as the body of Jesus Christ, right? And that's why we call women sisters, and that's why we call men brothers, sisters in Christ, brothers in Christ. It's because we're a part of something, it's a community, a familial place. All right, that's what I say about In the Image Clothing Company, and that's how In the Image Clothing Company is a familial place in a community, is because it's centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? It really is just centered around God himself. So that's the whole thing, man. Is that's why church is so great, man, because you go to church and you're just accepted, man. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Don't believe me, man, but the true church on the earth, man, restored today. Yeah, because there's a lot of churches out there, man, but who's running them and how, and then how do you know if they're good, or maybe they were good a couple decades ago until they got a new leader, It's like, ooh, yikes. Yeah, check out the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, man, but like from the source, right? From it, official. I mean, because... yeah, right, just a place to congregate, a place to come together, and it's a community, it's a familial place, man, it's a family. Man, I've seen this. It's not like some aha, like the first time I ever saw it, but yeah, in a sense, I mean, definitely spoken to just then. There's this bottle of sunscreen that's just been sitting here on this shelf for quite some time, months, and on it says Family Dry. And I think it's sunscreen, unless it's bug repellent. It's actually bug repellent. Anyway, I read the word family on it right when I said familial place, or whatever I said, right when I noticed it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, it's what I was saying with you sell one shirt and cool, somebody has your shirt, from your company. Maybe your company name's on it. In the Image Clothing Company products, it will always be on the inside only, right? I say brandless on the exterior. Dog products as well. They'll say In the Image Clothing Company on them, but it'll be on the inside of things in the ways that we can do that, right? What is the point? Is it's just not about showing off the company name, right? It's about minimal. It's about, as I say, and I'll say it here, it's good, right? To mention, maybe you haven't heard another episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast where I've said this, right? But minimal and no logos on the exterior, because the point is our bodies are the things that work well. And so the clothing gets noticed because our bodies function well. And it's like, oh, wow, that person looks functional, right? It's not about looking for a brand, and our eyes go to things to read, right? Rather than just seeing a human being for what they are. And same with the dogs, sometimes there's dog products, like things placed onto dogs that are just like flashy. It's like, whoa, right? So minimal is what we are under In the Image Clothing Company. And I'm the founder, so I can say that, right? Gotcha, bro. Anyway, what I'm saying though is, we don't want somebody to just buy our shirt and, maybe somebody will happen to see the inside of the clothing. It's like sitting on somebody's bed or in the back of their truck, and like, it's a button-up, right? Because we'll have button-ups that are awesome. Definitely. I wear button-ups. I love them so much. And they're cool, man, because then you can visually tell the human being centered, because the buttons stay in the center, dude, right? In your sternum. Often they don't, right? But that's why In the Image Clothing Company clothing is what it is. But anyway, it's like, let's say there's just a button-up shirt just opened in someone's tailgate of their truck, and somebody sees it. It's like, Oh, dude, what's this shirt, man? In the Image Clothing Company. What is this? It looks cool, dude, you know? I saw you wearing this earlier, and it was centered, and it looks like you can move well in it. It's kind of cool, man. What's it about? You know, that stuff could happen, but like I'm saying, you know, every single brick, as I'm wording it, in our building of what In the Image Clothing Company is an advertisement in itself. Anytime you ever see me, Evan Strong, my body and its workings, because it works because of my clothing, truly, right? I mean, that's what we are, but those of you who just maybe don't know yet what we do, it's like, that's really the actual way my body's allowed to work now, right? And you can see the visual transformation through my body from the founding 8 months ago from today's date until now, right? And then going forth. My body's just changed so much. It works the only way God designed it to, because I got out of patterning. But that's the whole thing, you know, is anytime you ever see me, and we do so much through video. I mean, video is one of our main things that is in the Image Clothing Company at all. As of now, I mean, it's pretty much the only thing, except for the audio forms of the video filmed podcast episodes under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. But you know, going forth with clothing sales and puppy sales, you know, standard poodle puppies under In the Image Clothing Company poodles, and you know, dog product sales and all the things that we get into, still so much of it will always be done through video. I call it the gift of video, and I love it. And every video you ever see in itself is an advertisement for what we are. Because whether you just see one of our poodles and they just look natural and they can just actually move their head, right? Because we keep really light, minimal collars on them that are natural material, right? And we feed them proper and keep them hydrated proper, you know, and keep natural materials in and on and around them, right? That's what we are. That's why we have that whole fourth of the company, right? I mean, it's more than just my love of dogs. I mean, I'd have the love of standard poodles regardless, but there's a whole fourth of the company because of these reasons that will be in themselves just an advertisement. If I'm just walking around and people see my dogs just working well, no joke. No joke. I mean it, right? But also just myself, right? Because in the videos that we have, I don't even have to only be discussing things. I don't have to even say a word about the anatomy of the human body in videos, as far as like, for you to know that I'm preaching what I have practiced on the back end. Because my body just works. We live in a modern day where so many people are in such patterning, dude. And they're just having such a problem breathing and operating. And a lot of it's not even their fault, right? And so we just give the truth to them through every brick that we're laying in our building so that people can come to it and learn. Do you see what I mean? If you build it, they'll come, dude. You can't expect people to come to something that's not even there yet. I don't mean to be judgmental, but it's like what I was saying in that video that I said I filmed today. You know, I mean, my whole life's like an example, bro. I mean, all the mistakes I make, but all the, because, yeah, all the successes as well, right? What I was saying in that video is, everybody loves a good underdog story. I said it like many times throughout that video as I was just discussing what we are as In the Image Clothing Company and how it's always just going to be what it is. And there's so much that we do that, you know, I mean, I can make a brick anywhere, right? For any four sides of the company, there's some little thing that I can do at any time, anywhere, without having to try to feel like I'm just slaving away at work. But I'm putting in work by doing what I love. And that's so crazy, right? It's that thing we hear so often. And, you know, I mean, I always knew that it could happen. And I've seen people in life do it. And I never questioned, you know, like, the reality of that phrase, I guess, but I mean, that's really what this is, you know, and so that's what I mean, right? Where I use myself as the example because it's just documentation. It's just me building things as I go. And, you know, I mean, if you're going to make a movie, you just document little clips. You put all the clips together, right? I mean, in movies, there's hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands, who knows how many hundreds of thousands or millions, right, of little clips. If you pay attention watching a movie, some clips are less than a second. Some clips are just a second. Some clips are, a few seconds, but it's not even that common for clips in movies to be like a full minute long. But then you've got like a 2-hour movie, 2-hour, 30-minute movie, or whatever it is, right? It's built up of little tiny clips that they've put together. And so, oh my goodness, my elbow kind of hurts right now. I've been doing so much release to my arm, and then sitting here with my arms on my knees like this, sitting on the ground, and my hands clasped together, just kind of painting a picture for those in audio only. Just things are working in positions they never have been allowed to. When I say never, it's just been so much time since they have been. And it's a good thing, but there's just some discomfort because my body needs to get used to it, right? But yeah, like those little clips in the movie that make up the whole movie, that's what each of these things that I'm talking about, that I'm doing, are for what In The Image Clothing Company in its entirety is. Yeah, because you don't make a movie by, just doing it all at once. Movies take time to film, and it's an accumulation of a lot of little moving parts. Guess what? The human body, right? It's an accumulation of a lot of little moving parts. Because I talk about the body as if it's a play, right? You go to watch a play, and somebody doesn't show up for one of the parts or roles, and the play just doesn't play out. Because everything has to play its role. If you watch a movie, and a clip didn't make it into the movie, then there's like a part missing to it, right? The human body, if something's not working correct in it, then something else is trying to compensate, but it just doesn't quite work how it was designed to. In the Image Clothing Company, we are all four sides. I mean, we're all just one thing. And if I don't just put in little bricks here and there, then it just won't really play out. If I just expect it to work without paying attention to the little moving parts, right? And making a video that some people might think, oh, dude, you've made so many videos, bro. Why are you making that video? But then, like, maybe that's the one that gets the most views out of any other video that we ever made. And just for the sake of then it's an advertisement, right? Then I built something that draws people in. And even if it was a video on something like hydration, okay, I made one yesterday for the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled, What It Really Means to Be Hydrated. But, I'm thinking about stuff like that, stuff that's nothing to do with clothing directly in the way of like fabric, right? I mean, people don't know what we are if they don't know what we are, and they're like, why are you guys talking about hydration? I thought you were a clothing company, right? But then if that video on hydration ended up being the video that got the most views, like for a time or even ever, a cumulative, right? Just who knows? Then that video could be the one that draws people in. And if I weren't to have built that video, then those people drawn in from that one video wouldn't have come unless it was through another way, right? And so it's what I've been saying from the start, and shoot, there's one of these episodes, dude, I put language warning on it because I was going through it physically, so much pain in it. But I was talking about, like, those people in my life right now who are, like, judging me for what I'm doing, and a lot of it's my own family. I'm like, your words are going to come back to bite you in the booty. All the judgments you have toward what I'm doing, because what I'm doing applies to you. And if you don't see what I'm doing, that's okay, but don't judge me, and ask. If you have questions, I mean, I don't have to answer, but if I do answer, then you can know if you ask. Or you can know if you just look at what I've built already, rather than just judging without even knowing what it is. You see what I mean? But you gotta build it first, or else you can't have somebody come to something. It's like you're throwing a party, and you gotta, like, put the party together. You gotta build the party, and then people have a party to come to. You can't just say, hey, come to a party. And it's like, where is it? I don't know. It's like, I built one. Come check it out. I mean, and so it's taken some time to do what I've done here because Because the videos are long. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons it's taken so much time. Just meaning, longer than some people probably think it should have to be where they think I am right now. But the other reason why it's taken the amount of time that it has is because my body's been transformed. And the body does need some time. I mean, you can't just go to some person and have them do all the adjustments and break up all the scar tissue in your body and do it all in one day. Your body needs some time to adjust, right? I mean, the body's got so many systems in it that have to continue to work, and they need to be like acclimated, if you will, right? But then not only just that, but then documenting the videos as my body has transformed, right? I've built something that I couldn't even possibly try to stretch as far as like making it seem like, yeah, it's clothing, when maybe it's not really like the actual cause of human beings' problems. It's like, no, it just is. I mean, but I've had to build it before people can even know that. Before there is credibility, right? There had to be somewhere for the credibility to come from. That's what I mean. And even with breeding dogs, right? I mean, if I had dogs right now and I just bred them like today, well, I'll word it like this. If I bred dogs on the very first day that I announced In The Image Clothing Company poodles, and then, dogs' pregnancies, standard poodles is 2 months, right around there. 2 months later, it's like, hey guys, I've got some puppies available, and I'm asking a price that people are like, dude, I don't even know anything about your dogs, right? Then I haven't really built something yet at that point, right, in the hypothetical. But as of today's date, we've got 38 videos on In The Image Clothing Company poodles. I talk about all the things that we are as In The Image Clothing Company poodles. And so I've built something already, right, before I even have my first standard poodle of my own to even put into a breeding program. And so now when people come, they're coming to something that has a whole basis to it, right? Something that I've built, they can now know about. And that's humbling because that's what it is, dude, right? I mean, I can't say something that hasn't happened and have it be valid, right? But that's the thing about being like a credible dog breeder, right? There's a lot of people out there, they call them backyard breeders, it's like, who knows, dude, how those dogs were raised. And, there's that term puppy mill. Sometimes people, because, I mean, you can just breed animals, right? You put a male and a female animal together, and you just, if people want a puppy, then you just sell it to them, and there you go, quick cash, right? But no, I mean, our credibility comes because I've built the whole foundation, because I've documented all these things, right? Because I've talked about stuff and it lines up. And so I've built it so that people will come, right? So that we can sell some relatively pricey puppies just because of what's going into them that I have built before the puppies were even born, and then, raising them up as well. See, so you got to build something before somebody can come to it. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. I'm a guitarist, by the way. If you started this episode at the start, but I just haven't really been talking about music that much, man, and that's fine. But I think that's probably why I'm saying it, because I was getting convicted about music, So many of the In The Image Clothing Company podcast episodes have me playing a little bit of guitar in them. And so even though I haven't been, like, making that much music in the past 8 months since we've had In The Image Clothing Company, people know I play guitar, and they know where it's come from as far as me and guitar, because there's all the documentation, right? I've built a background, if you will, on who I am as Evan Strong, and how I can claim that there's, a proper way to string guitars when people just think it's opinion. And you know what I mean? Like, I've built stuff here, bro. Like, so come check it out, because it works. It lines up. It makes sense, dude. But a lot of people just don't know, man. We live in a world where there's a lot of so closes, okay? There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled So Close. We do all that we can here to talk about things as they are, okay? And sometimes I'm wrong. but, you know, I've built something where you can go back and check the credibility. See if we have been saying the same thing since the founding, because we have. And it will always be that way. So, anyway, cool, dude. Cool, dude. You know, I mean, just don't be afraid of putting in work without seeing results yet. Takes time, you know. You don't. Well, there's that phrase people say. You know, they ask, "How do you eat an elephant?" And the answer to that question is one bite at a time, right? An elephant's a big thing, man. It's a big animal. For those of you that don't know, it's just a really, really large animal. It lives in like desert climate, right? Like Africa. There's elephants in Africa on the continent over there, right? Yeah. Anyway, something that large, how do you eat that thing? One bite at a time, right? How do you build a company? Well, one video at a time. That's what I've been doing. Yeah. So we'll wrap it up there, dude. And I feel like I need to play a little bit of Red here. He might be out of tune again. He's slightly out of tune, but I'll throw a capo on, and I don't know what we'll do, but unorthodox and untraditional, brother. Yeah, he's pretty out of tune as well, but I started playing ukulele, by the way. I think that's known by those who know, meaning I think I've said that. No, I'm certain I've said it under In The Image Clothing Company content, but I started anything with strings off, you know, I played ukulele. So sometimes I'll treat a guitar like a ukulele, right? If you capo the guitar on the 5th fret, then these top small strings, meaning these ones, that's a ukulele. So you can, but it's so he's definitely out of tune, but yeah. Anyway. So I used to just sit there with the ukulele and do that type of thing. Yeah. Just all day. And so I could just sit. I think that's the thing, right? I mean, like I said earlier, just a few minutes ago, like, I'm a musician, by the way, or whatever I said. Like, I play guitar, dude, and I play well, man. So anyway, I do play guitar. Shoot, I play guitar, man. And I think, one thing that I need to get over a little bit is not worrying if we've got 3-4 hour podcast episodes. Because if there's more to say, there's more to say, I mean, that's what a podcast is. It's different. That's why, I mean, because we do videos on, yeah, I mean, the podcast, yeah, it can be as long as whatever. And so that's me kind of like almost repenting through the podcast, though, like, so that you're aware of where my heart's at with this is, yeah, I mean, sometimes I limit myself on how long the podcasts are, or try to make them flow like more than they would need to or whatever, right? And so sometimes maybe I'll just play yeah. Sometimes I might play quite a bit of guitar in podcast episodes, just take a few minutes out and just play with it a little bit, and I've got this guitar, man, this thing's great. So anyway, dude, I feel like myself again, right? Episode 110 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I just feel content, and calm. Even though, like, my life situation is so unique, and most people would probably be not anywhere close to something they could call calm if they were in my situation. But I've just been given so much, man, regardless of how much I want to complain about, like, but Father, I don't know what's going on. It's scary. It's like, well, sometimes, yeah, maybe you're going to be a little bit, lost for real. But I watched Moana 2 again by Disney the other night. I love Moana, the movie. And there's that song in that second Moana movie about getting lost, and you can't be found if you're not first lost, and God is our shepherd, and he leaves the 99 on the mountain to go find the one sheep who went astray, and often it's actually great to be lost, God's strength shines forth in our weakness, and, there you go. So, yeah, I might play quite a bit of guitar, just here and there, but man, things just happen how they do, man. It's like that episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, faith is the new hope. I don't hope for things, and I'm just having faith as I'm sitting here on the floor, I'm no joke. I mean, it's as real as it gets, and so there you go. And there's some cool stuff, actually, man, placed on In the Image Clothing Company music as of today's date. And I just don't reference it that often, at least. That hasn't been the case, I just haven't really been talking about In the Image Clothing Company music that much. But then I'll, like, casually, randomly, at certain times, throw out that phrase, like, yeah, I'm going to be a professional guitarist someday, and I will. And so that's why it's like, what's this kid doing? I don't know a lot of the time, dude, but God does. And I'm just kind of like, you know, along for the ride. And I'm doing work, but like, meaning I'm not the one in charge, you know. I used to talk about sitting in the back seat, and now it's a good thing, and because, right, we need to let God take the wheel, but that doesn't mean that we don't do anything. It just means that the things we do, sometimes we might not really even be able to explain why, but we just, you know, can say, well, because I just know I need to, and then it works, and it's like, told you, but, you know, it's not about me, like I was right about it, because I didn't know either, dude, but, you know, it's using, you know, our lives as a testimony for God himself. With a cute little red guitar. Yeah. Well, it's like that song. I don't know how much storage space I have until this potentially cuts, but, and he is out of tune, you know, a little bit at least, but that song I wrote titled Horizons. It goes, driving all these horizons. Yeah. Driving all these horizons. I don't know if I'm the one driving. Driving over mountainous scenery. Got nothing but the dirt in me. Oh. Shoot. I can play guitar, dude, and I can sing too, you know. I mean, I think that's a big thing. Is it's a good thing that I haven't been maybe seen as somebody who's as good at guitar as I say that I am, because then when I'm good at it, it's like, look, dude, I mean, a lot of times we hear people say like how good they are at something or whatever, and, you know, they're just not showy about it. So when they do it, then it's like kind of like, oh gosh, well, that's sweet, you know, and because I don't want to be showy about things, but that's what I was saying earlier about, you know, that's why I say I'm so good at stuff, even if it may not seem like it, just because I know I'm good at it. That's, you know, I think that's one of the biggest things too, just what God's given me inside myself as far as the understandings of who I am. Growing up, I never knew, you know, and I was told who I was and who I could or couldn't be and who I would amount to be and what I could never be, you know. And you know, I asked God in 2022 probably to show me who I really am. And I just wasn't who I really am. For a lot of years of my life, I was trying to be something. You know, just knowing who I am, knowing what I'm building here is, you know, where I'm going with this for this episode specifically, right? Episode 118 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, titled If You Build It, They Will Come. I know what I'm building here, and the way that I know what I'm building here is because God has told me, right? And I know that I'm a great guitarist because God has told me, regardless of those days or nights and long nights where I didn't feel like I could play, and I felt like there was something wrong and in the way, and I didn't know what it was. And, you know, now it's a whole fourth of In the Image Clothing Company, allowing the human body to work, right? In the Image Clothing Company music. So yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Anyway, we'll wrap it up right there, but I want to express my gratitude, man. And, you know, being able to be rebaptized, that was a whole thing in itself, dude. I mean, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, man, it's the true church. I don't care if you have heard something about it, or you got your own beliefs or opinions toward or against it or whatever, dude. Those things come up, and that's fine, but it's the place to be, man. I need God. That's the place to go, man. So, anyway, I want to thank you for listening, man, for sticking around, for checking it out, I mean, as much as a lot of it's fun for me, that's why it's crazy. It's what I said earlier, it's like never working a day in your life when you're doing what you're supposed to. It's not even about doing what you think you want. But if you're doing what God's plan is for you, then it's fulfilling. Breeding standard poodle puppies, playing guitar and all that comes with that, talking about the anatomy of the human body, designing clothing that helps people, right? Having a podcast where I just sit here and I'm real, man, and I talk about God. The one thing that we all need. The only thing, because from there He provides everything we ever could need. So, yeah, man, I mean, and this is oh, goodness, little spider, man. Yeah. What I was going to say with this is the thing is, I've been saying it, and our whole company, right, it's titled in God's name, really, right, in the image of God, Jesus Christ Himself. But, as I've talked about since we got in, I'm gonna just say it quick and direct. In the Image Clothing Company podcast it's I mean, this God is real. I don't know, man. I think a lot of people have questions on what life is, and I do it imperfectly, but I really discuss what life is here on In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and it's just such a gift, man. So I'm gonna have poodles with me everywhere I go, man. Look out for it. I'm not making some clams, but thank you. Today's the 10th of May, 2025. I'm getting emotional over that too, man. And I do, and I have, but see, I'm trying to cut it, and it's like maybe not quite yet. It's not a dream of mine, man. None of this. It's not a hope. It's God's plan, and I'm just so grateful that I'm listening. I mean, that's a lot of my prayers a lot of the time is, Father, thank you for helping me listen. After being so rebellious for so many years. We're just gonna have poodles, man, all over the place. That's not some kind of silly thing to say. I just know how it sounds, right? Or how some people might be hearing it is what I mean by that. I just love them so much, man. Standard purebred poodles, man. Shoot. They're not just pets, man. In the ways that we do what we do with poodles under In the Image Clothing Company, yeah. It's so big, dude. Bigger than I even really know how it's going to unfold or look, but I know that it's, I know what I've been told by God. So, just grateful to be able to document. I mean, you couldn't even do this back before there was the ability to film video, I mean. So. Anyway. All right. My name's Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 118. Thank you.